I've actually made it, and I think I've got the screen share going okay for you. So hopefully you're all still there and you haven't run away and decided that I've died, because I haven't died. But this is rather more complicated than doing screen share on Zoom, so I'm not actually going to be, I wasn't as brilliant at it as I thought I might be when I started. But here we are, and it's about being wild, about wilding yourself. Now, I'm sure we're all actually good at this in our own ways, but we can all make ourselves a bit better, and there are probably lots of things that we haven't actually thought about. I'm going to have to say on this, before I get going, is that you're not going to be able to see me and see the screen share that I want you to see. So hang in there with that and we'll manage it. Morning again, Mark. Hang in there. Tell everybody that I'm actually here and it's all going to be all right. So I hope that you're all having a good time already and you've enjoyed the opening ritual. And that's actually set us all up for the day, which is really good. And we have the things like gratitude and like being wild, being our wild self, to really get into. And that's what I want to talk about today. And I don't know quite how the end of this is going to work, but I wanted to have some comments and questions at the end. But it may mean that I have to turn myself off to get rid of the screen share, or we may just manage anyway without me getting rid of the screen share. So, rewilding. Rewilding yourself. Because actually, you can't do any rewilding without feeling that wildness within yourself. It's really important. You can begin, but you'll find that it will really only get going for you when you've got it together with being wild, being the wild self that you are. And I think most people who go to the Mercian Gathering really are quite wild. At least they're working on it very hard, even if they haven't managed it. Hi, Susan. But it is really important. I'm sort of shaman type person, as you probably know. Now, I use the word shaman because it's the best known word, worldwide. God, I haven't got a mouth this morning, sorry. It's the best known word worldwide that has some kind of meaning to people. Morning, Anne. But it's not the word that we would use. And I'm sure some of you already know the word we use in Britain, or at least one of the words we use in Britain, because it's by no means the only one even here, is Arwenis. Arwenis. Spelt weirdly, as usual, because it's in the old British language, Aweny. Now, I'm sure lots of you know about that, but that's how we call ourselves. As a group, we call ourselves Arwenisian. So how does being Arwenis work with rewilding? Well, actually it works very well, because our old word means spirit keeper, one who knows, which is really similar to how the Tungus word shaman means. Sorry, got stuck in there with some comments. Hopefully everybody's working okay. Right, so Arwenis means the same sort of thing that the Tungus word shaman means. One who knows, one who keeps the spirit. And keeping the spirit is about keeping the spirit alive in the land, as we're doing now in the Mercian Gathering, as we've done before, real life. It's about all of these things. It's about how we talk together. It's about how we share together. on the Facebook groups and in all sorts of other ways that we do, as well as the one-to-one work that we do, and as well as the face-to-face work we do in groups whenever we can now. And being awareness, being spirit keeper, keeping that spirit alive in the land is a big, big, big part of rewilding. And we have to have it within ourselves before we can really work it well and really effectively with people outside. So, what is this? How does one rewild oneself? There are all sorts of bits and pieces that have been going on, for years now, but particularly in the last, few months, that we've had so much going on. Lost Words by Robert Macfarlane and Jackie Morris. Natural history being local to each place in each county and each country. All through lockdown, the wildlife trusts and similar organisations were doing so much about the wildlife, and they were doing it on Zoom, and actually they got enormous audiences. I was there for quite a lot of them. So rewilding is really important, but it can be difficult for people because they don't altogether grasp that they can do anything. But we can, and we start by rewilding ourselves. Hope you like the Scottish wildcat pic, by the way. Colette Shane was the artist for it, and to me, I think that's absolutely stunning. But then I would, because the Scottish wildcat is my main familiar spirit, so I'm going to like it. Anyway, let's move on. What's the problem? I'm sure we mostly know this, and it's about the disconnect that most people have, even in relatively wilder places and less civilised places, and I don't mean civilised being nice, I mean civilised being cityfied. That's sort of modern and, first world countries. Even in third world countries, it's getting to be a problem because they want their mobile phones, and actually their mobile phones are much more vital to them than they are to most of us here. And that's important. But then they get stuck into that, and so then they want, cars and fridges and cinemas and pretty clothes, and not to have to do anything. Think about that one. And it's really gone completely bonkers, apart from being the case amongst toffs, but amongst ordinary people like us. It's really gone bonkers about not having to do anything since we got the idea that being a Hollywood star was such a good idea. Look at adverts on TV. Bear it if you're not a TV person, and have a look at some of them. And they're all about like Hollywood lifestyles, like there's some stuff, I think it's actually about washing powder, but there's this wonderful hunky looking dad who's probably black, not that I have anything against black people, but it's sort of like it's the token black hubby, and he's there holding the baby and putting the nappies into the washing machine, and she's there sort of doing something really pretty. And she's probably white because, that's the other token half of all this kind of shit. And so you want a hubby like that. You want a hubby who's going to do all the baby nappies and things like that while you can be pretty. And you're the hubby, you want the pretty wife, and you want the nice, quiet, calm baby. They're not. If you've had any, they're not. Occasionally you get the relief, but a lot of the time they are not quiet. They're not sweet and goo 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 or anything like that. They're people, they're kids, they're how they are. So we've got this disconnect that, everything can be as some kind of fairy dream of how things can be. And this is, I'm not talking necessarily about us, but this is how it is for a lot of people. And so we get really weird. We get the thing like, you've got to wipe everything with Dettol or you'll die. Again, the adverts. Actually, you won't. You might die of the Dettol, but you won't die if you don't die, if you don't keep wiping everything with Dettol. And so we've also got into the idea that we must be safe. Sorry, life isn't safe. You could come out of the gathering, when we used to be there for real, and you come up to the end of the lane and you can stick your car's nose out into the road and a big lorry can come along and wipe it off and you're dead. It's that safe. You can walk under a bus any time. You could actually get ill. You could even have a heart attack any time. So you can't keep death and injury away. You can be careful, and that's sensible. But you can't be safe all the time. You can't stop things happening. And that's part of the disconnect. We've got the big disconnect of the tower block city and the separated from the field, which actually isn't that brilliant anyway, because it looks to me like one or two different varieties of grass and not a proper meadow. So that's disconnected as well. And goodness knows what all the stuff on the hedge is, but it looks a bit too regular for me to be wild. And we go out for walks. And so often it becomes like this. The kids with a parent on a safe path, and they're both clutching the parent. One of them's got a stick, well done girl, but they're clutching the parent, and it's a safe path. There aren't any lumps and bumps, and there's no nasty grass there which could hide horrible things which might bite them. All the grass and the ferns and the trees have been relegated to the side. They've been pushed away so that the safe path for parent and kids can be down the middle. And then we've got how I remember life when I was growing up. Maybe you do too. And how it still is for me when I go out. You've got kids in the wild. And that might be a parent in the middle, or it might not. It might just be an elder sister. It used to be somebody like an elder sister for me. But whatever, they're brushing against nature. The path looks to me like an animal track, not a nice, safe path, beautifully rolled and manicured, so that poor little kids won't trip. They can trip there, they can fall over, might fall even fall in the nettles. They might even get stung by a nettle. Ooh, I don't like it either, but you live. And nettles are actually brilliant herbs. So they're not nasty, beastly creatures out to get you. They're real, and they're good, and they're herbs. I mean, I eat them. I also have nettle tea, and actually having a nettle bath is quite handy too. So we've got this problem, this disconnect. And this is how it is for most people. And I think you may find that you've got little bits of it still in you too. I certainly have. And every now and again you go, ooh, I was being like an advert then. I was being normal. And I'm not really. So where do we walk from this problem? Oops, wrong way. Not that way. We walk forward. Well, there's an inner problem. And we've all seen it. It gets really expressed by the eternal bloody selfie. It's all about me. Now this takes us into stuff which actually can affect us in our magical workings. When you're doing a ritual or when you're lighting a candle, say you've something wrong, like, you need enough money to pay the electricity bill. Let's take a big one to start with. I've certainly been there. And so you light the candle and you get the incense going and you get the ritual going, you get everything right. And you say, please, I need money for the electricity. Please give me money to pay the electricity bill. So it comes in as me. It's about me. Yes, this problem is, but it's also very connected with other world. So a good way to start, well, there's two things. Let's go back a bit. I need, please give me money to pay the electricity bill. Number one there is you've actually restricted Otherworld as to how they can help you with your problem. You've said you want money, not anything else. You haven't left the thing open. You've stuck it right into one little thing. I need money. So you need to stretch that one out. You could start off with, please help me to get through this. The electricity is going to be cut off the day after tomorrow. I need to fix this somehow. How do I fix it? Show me what to do. That's good. That's left it open. When this actually happened to me, and it was actually going to be the next day, we will cut you off at midday tomorrow. So I was there. I was in quite a state, as you can imagine one would be. But I'd asked my question open. I said, please help me. How am I going to survive? Show me what to do so that this comes out all right, so that the electricity gets paid or whatever. But please make it all right. Please help me. Show me how to make it all right. Show me how to make it all right. Okay? And they did. They actually worked it very weirdly that a friend helped me with this and got it sorted. And it actually did also include me moving from where I was, which had never been in my mind, but it was necessary, and so I did. But I also added on to the end of my ritual, and please, what do you need from me? How can I give back to you? How can this be an exchange? Now, magical working is always about exchange, and it's not really about being looked after all the time by Otherworld. It's about being part of a relationship, part of a sharing and working relationship, so that you help them, they help you, they help you, you help them. And the whole thing gets twined together so that it's all part of one thing. So one of the first big things to deal with is this inner problem of making sure we ask the right question and that we don't look at it just from the selfie point of view. We look at it through a lens of how is it for Otherworld, because it's fuzzy for us around the edges, and so we ask Otherworld to see how is it for you. What do you need from me so that we can get it all fixed? How about that for a question? What can I do to get this situation sorted? Please show me. Show me is always a better way of asking than tell me, because they tend to flash pictures around our heads more than words, but they do words as well. But show me is again more open. Show me the next step. Show me what to do. Show me what you need from me. So we move there. And that's a beginning. That's a beginning of rewilding yourself. Now, why is it a beginning of rewilding ourselves? Because our ancestors used to do this. As a hunter-gatherer, this is pretty surely how you work. There was a very good conference in Chicago in 1966 about precisely this, how hunter-gatherers worked and how they worked with nature. And it was very eye-opening. But unfortunately, it got buried because it actually meant that humans weren't possibly the top of the tree. Possibly nature was the top of the tree. Can't have that, bury it. Anyway, to go on, our ancestors understood the natural world probably a lot better than we do. And they knew to ask, as I was just talking about. They knew to let nature lead. Mother Earth, Mother Nature, the goddess and the green man. These are the people. These are the ones, I'm calling them people, beings if you prefer. They're not human people, but they're people. These are the ones who know. Now, as I'll probably say again, Mother Earth has been at this game, keeping herself, making herself, working with herself and working with the sun, her partner. She's been doing this for 4.5 and probably a bit more billion years. Billion years. That's mind-blowingly big. She's probably quite good at it because of this. In fact, she's definitely quite good at it. And she doesn't make mistakes. But we humans do. And we think she makes mistakes. Some of the sort of science, technology, even farmers think, oh, I can do better than nature with this. Really? I very much doubt it. Again, we need to understand Mother Nature, and we need to learn to let her lead. And she will lead us into mimicking what she does. And that is rewilding. It's not all about just leaving things alone and letting things happen. And that may take, if the land, say, has been ruined with chemicals, that can take a hell of a long time to get right. But we can do things that will help her to right herself. And again, we ask her, we watch how she's done this, and there are lots of examples of how she's reclaimed land. And we learn to mimic her. And as we do this, we get nature in our bones. I do like this pic, by the way. Had to use it. It is like, yes, that is what it is about. And it's a predator, look. It's got canines. So we need to allow nature into our bodies, into our bones, into our feelings, into our thinking. Because she is our intuition. And we allow her in, we let her in, we ask her to come in and show us. Yeah, we ask. We ask Mother Nature, what do you need of us right now? And we keep on asking to make sure we're still on message, because we might not be, we might have slipped. And we keep on checking that we're still doing it right. Am I still doing it right? Is this right? Is this what you want? And sometimes, I mean, like just in gardening, I get, no, not like that, like this. You go, oh right, okay, I forgot. Yeah, I see now. But we keep asking. We ask the plant, we ask the spirit of place where we live. We ask the spirit of place of the whole land where we live, you know, the countryside, maybe the county. I mean, I think of it as the Stretton Hills because that's where I live. It was also part of the Long Forest, so I asked the spirit of the Long Forest, am I still doing it right? And I also ask the plant, now, is this where you want to go? Are you sure about that? Okay, that's fine. Right, dig hole, put plant in. And we never, ever try to control her. It's not being wild to control. Being wild is sharing and working together. Controlling is being human. And we need to be wild human back to our ancestors' way of feeling and working and being. Not that we give up laptops and Zoom and mobile phones and all the rest of it. It's our thinking that we need to change, our way of being. And we always know that Mother Earth knows what she's doing. And we're like this reindeer calf. Here's Mum saying, it's okay, you've just landed on Earth, you've just got born, and this is me, and I'm mum, and I love you. And the little thing's going, really? Are you my mum? You my mum? Are you? Yeah. Is it? It's okay. And she's going, yes, yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah. So we ask, oh, yes. Old country saying, thorn is the mother of oak. One of the problems with rewilding, and rewilding your garden or your patch or your farm or your allotment or whatever, is that it can often look messy. And we'll go, oh, I don't want those brambles, I don't want all those nettles, I don't want all that scrub. And again, this is really well, it actually goes back to Victorian gardeners very badly, but not only. I mean, Louis XIV was just as bad with his gardens, but it's about controlling nature. It's about making it look like what we think is pretty, and not with nasty stinging nettles that are going to sting me and make me hurt, and not with nasty brambles that are going to scratch me and make me bleed. So when Mother Earth has a go, when Mother Earth gets going and she's got a young tree, she uses her messy, brambly, nettly, thorny, scrubby patch because they stop the grazing animals eating the young tree, which they will. If they can see it, if they can get their nose and their teeth to it, they'll eat it. I've got a little oak tree growing under a bramble, actually, and under a couple of apple trees in my orchardy bit in the garden. And it's very small, it's only about 6 inches tall, but he's growing there because he was safe. And we have rabbits around here. Now the rabbits are going to eat the oak tree as well, because those tender young leaves are really good, particularly about now when things are getting a bit rough in the grass level. A nice young tree leaf is going to be fine, and the top of the stem, and that's it for the oak tree, bitten its head off. So I'm going to have to look after that one and make sure he's okay. So when we tidy up, when we're in control, when we tidy up, we mess up Mother Earth's plans. I mean, here she is. This is one of the best Ceridwen pictures, I think. It's of the Feefor song. But here she is, and the whole thing is going round. The cycle is working. These are her plans. This is how it's going to be. And it's going to burst Taliesin, shining brown. And what she's trying to stop is chaps like this. There's this fantastic red deer who has a seriously bad hair day. And you can see he's sticking his tongue out at us as well. And he's had his head in the bracken, in the brambles, and his antlers have just pulled it away. He still probably hasn't got to the tree that he can sort of vaguely, quite well smell under there. So we have to be careful about tidying up. And this season, autumn, is a real tidy up time. We're all supposed to tidy up. No. That's where all the young are. That's where the larvae are of the insects and the butterflies, and maybe even the baby bees. And they're all living there, and quite a lot of things overwinter in the hollow stems of grasses and plants. So don't tidy it up. Make sure there's some there with all the babies in there, because when you're there pulling out all of this bad stuff and tidying it all up and cleaning it and cutting it back, you're killing all the babies. Don't help. We're doing badly enough with extinctions as it is. Don't make it worse. So, rewilding. Mostly what we hear is huge rewilding schemes, like the Carafran Wildwood, which is 1,600 acres, Knepp, which is quite famous because of Isabella Tree's lovely book, Wilding. That's 3,500 acres. It's still not that big. The Plumlimon project up in the Welsh uplands, that's the source of the Severn River, is 10,000 acres. And so you think, all I've got is my backyard. I can't do it. But we can. Oh yes. Work this out. 45 average back gardens equals 1 acre. There are 14 million gardens in Britain. That's about 300,000 acres of garden in Britain. That's a lot of land to allow nature back into. So we can, if we'll rewild. And rewilding means putting all this back, putting this biodiversity web back with how everything links. You see how everything links to each other. There's a lovely bit here, mammal feces, you know, the little rat shits, and that helps the soil and the fungus grow, and they move some of the nutrients to the plants and to the tree, and the bird shits and the same thing happens. And everything goes round and round and round. And the little bugs and such like move things around as well. And the fungi, by the way, are the mycorrhiza. And the mycorrhiza, which is something my dad and my uncle taught me about when I was a kiddie, they're like Ellen's tracks, Ellen's wild ways, because they're the threads that run through the earth and used to run through every part of the land, connecting all the plants and all the trees and all the soil and all the bugs and everything together. And we've wrecked that with farming, and with modern farming and deep ploughing, horrendously badly. So we need to get this bioweb going. And you can do it in your garden. You really can. I do. I have been for years. So how do we do it? Well, we're back to asking again. Everything comes back to asking. We ask the spirit of place. I'm sure you're all in touch with the spirit of place where you live. And we know everything has anima and spirit. And we know that that's conscious. So we ask it. We ask the garden spirit of place. What do you want? What do you need of me? How would you like to look? How would you like to be? Well, I'd sort of like a eucalyptus tree over there. Do you think that would be a good idea? No, but you can have a rowan. Yeah, this sort of thing. This is how you do. You end up with this kind of conversation. And then you've sorted the plants. So you talk to each plant. Where would you like to be? Because you've had this idea that it's going to be over there. And then when you actually get to talk to the plant, you say, I want to be over there, I want to be over there. And I've actually been there with a barrow full of plants and everything prepared. And they say, I don't want to be over there, I'm going over there. If you put me over there, I'll die. All right, okay. So that was another afternoon. But we got them where they were, and they were beautiful. You'd ask where the pond would like to be. Please have a pond, even if all you have is an upturned dustbin lid buried in the grass. Please have water with 4 elements: earth, air, fire and water. And they all need to be in the garden. So please have a pond. But ask it where it would like to be. And then ask the spirit of place, is that okay with you? Ask the spirit of the hedge, is that okay with you? And the trees, how about you? And the plants, how do you feel about the pond being there? And you also ask the birds and the insects. And I forgot to put them up there, but the little mammals, because you've got little mammals in your garden, unless you've covered it in poison. All little mice and voles and shrews. Ask them. And aren't worms animals too? It's a hell of a lot of people to consult, but you can do it. And actually it's quite nice, because you can take a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or whatever you happen to fancy, and you sit there and say, okay guys, this is what I thought of. Am I completely off-piste, or are we working together? Give me your ideas. Give me what you feel. A bit like having a committee meeting with your garden. Works, sir. Try it. So I thought I'd show you what could be done. I don't live here anymore. I live up in Shropshire now, in the past 2 years. This is the garden I left behind, and it is a wildlife garden. Hopefully most of it still is, but you can't tell with what the new owner's done. So here we are, by the pond. And there's bits of path, so you can come and stand up there. Actually a stone here you can sit on. And there's lots of comfrey and all sorts of stuff like that, and flowering bushes, and this is my birch tree, which is absolutely fantastic. And it's all working together and it's crowding together, but there's lots of colour in there, there's lots of difference, and we've got lots of lilies on the pond and other plants too. And here's some more of it. That's a wider view of the pond. That was the house, and yes, we actually sit by the pond, of course. This is a woody bit at the back of the garden, one end, opposite end from the house, actually diagonally opposite from there. And it was the only high place in the garden, which is otherwise flat, and so I made it a sitting place, which I haven't actually shown you. And there's sort of like a little track, a path. It's open because we keep walking it, and I made it a bit more hardcore. I haven't put any membrane down, any rubbish like that. I've just added more stones. Sorry about banging the mic. I've just added some more pebbles and things so that I can get up and down it easier. But everything still grows through there. And as long as I keep walking it, which of course I do, then it stays clear. That's a little bit of the paving that I put on the top. And you see the stuff growing up in it. So it's not concreted in. There's still plenty of room for wildlife in there. Lots of rocks, lots of stuff, moving water this is, little waterfall. Lots of plants growing everywhere. Lots of rocks and plants and stuff around there, but some open land, open grass, open grazing as well. And I grazed paths through where I felt I wanted to walk. Now, I didn't plan the paths there. I watched where I walked and where my husband walked and where people walked. And it turned out to be like they wanted to go that way, or they wanted to go that way, or they wanted to go that way. So I grazed those paths down. I'm really not prepared to have sheep or even geese, and certainly not cows, grazing in my garden. It's just like, no, sorry, that's somewhere I won't go. But I've never been asked to by a garden spirit anyway, so it's fine. So I have to do the grazing with the mower. And then I put all the grazing, because I haven't got 4 stomachs like a cow, so I can't compost the grass myself. I compost the grass, along with all the kitchen waste and any other weeds and things like that that need to come out, or plants that need to come out. So I'm following nature, I'm mimicking nature by grazing. Yeah? Now this is where I am now. And again, I'm mimicking nature by grazing. This is the first bed that I got together, and there's lots of plants in there. All sorts of stuff. I mean, these are hardy geraniums that flower forever and ever. There's grasses, that's Stipa gigantea in the back. This is Stipa tenuissima, but you can't really see it properly. This bed, this meadow, hasn't got so many grasses in it yet, but it will have, because I've been adding seed for it. And this one's not quite so good, but it's better than that one. That was the really bad one. And it looks out onto this hill, which is the Lawley. That's my library, by the way. That's the chimney to our living room. And there are actually flowers in here, and there will be in here and here. I've only been here 2 years. That will keep on coming for most of the year. You can't see them now, but this is full of buttercups, and there's dandelions and daisies in here, but I've just grazed them off, but they came back within the week. So there's stuff for the insects all the time. There's ivy in here, which has the flowers, and in the hedge this side, there's lots of privet and other shrub roses and all sorts of things, and juniper and gorse, all of which have flowers and are full of bees from as soon as they possibly can be. There's a bit more. See, we're quite wild. We've got thistles in here too, look, and foxgloves, and all sorts in here. And that's catnip. And the path goes up here. And there's a woody bit up here, which is a little glade, which is gorgeous. And this is out the front. The room that I'm sitting in now looks out on this. And again, it's grazed, but there's lots and lots of flowers in here as well. Can't see so many of them now. Round this edge, there's loads of roses and lavender and catnips and such like things like that, and oxeye daisies and crocosmia. all sorts of things. But the bees use all of those. Oh, and Verbena bonariensis, which is one of my favourites. And the bees use them all, as they do these. So they're all insecting. The birds love this tree because it's evergreen. And this is full of flowers and berries. And it's still full of bees now. This is willow, which is doing really well. And this is an old chair which was made for me, but I bring it with me everywhere. And here's a bit more. This is the pond, where it's got to so far. Yes, we sit by it. It's much smaller than the last one. And we have a grazed area around here where we can sit. And we're in process of building a waterfall, but it hasn't got there yet. And lots of wild plants. I put in lots of wildflowers as well. And that's monkshood. That's one of the hawk bits, more foxgloves and thistles and all sorts of grasses, and there's daylilies in there and all sorts of stuff. And what are you doing? Go back, go forward. And that's a posh mullein, but it's still used by the bees. This is my front gate, and it's full of cow parsley and oxeye daisies. This is the moon gate that a blacksmith friend made for me. And it goes up through the paths again and past the meadow, and a bit of hedging here, which is actually honeysuckle. So I'm getting all of these layers in the garden. This is the standard stuff that you learn through permaculture, which works a treat. So you've got climbers, which I've got, roots, which I've got some of, but I don't do a lot with, I don't eat roots a lot. Soil service, ground cover, got loads of that, see a bit more of that. The herbaceous layer, the shrub layer, the small things, and it's not just currants and berries, of course it's things like the juniper and the gorse bush and the honeysuckle as that bush layer as well. Low trees, I've got some of the small fruit trees, as you'll see in a minute. I've got small apple trees and nut trees in the garden and cherry trees. And then there's the tall canopies, which I've got. And I've got more than just fruit trees there. And I'm going to have a couple of oaks because I've got these two, actually, baby oaks in the garden. We've got willow and blackthorn and whitethorn and birch and all sorts in the hedges, and ivy and laurel. And it's lovely. And we've got two blooming great big holly hedges, which are really useful. And so they're giving us that low tree level as well. And we're gradually getting one or two larger trees, just a few of them are growing up taller. So I've got the whole caboodle going on. So these are the beginnings of my veg garden. This was back in the spring when everything was getting put together. Yes, I make compost, a lot of compost. This now, my predecessor put pebbles down. Please don't. She put pebbles down on membrane. Please don't. Not unless you want to spend the whole of your life, every spare moment, weeding pebbles, because otherwise you'll just get full of weeds. So I've used the pebbles, which I've used to help with the strata in the pond, and now what's left is all growing to grass, and this is all wide enough to take the mower around, so I take the mower around and mow it, and I just mow my paths. Now here is the beginning of a new orchard that I've built. Yes, I keep pallets because I'm mending these bed fences with them. This is my main orchard bit, round here, round the edges. That's an apple tree that was in a bad way because it wasn't rooted deep enough, so I stacked muck and earth and stuff around it. Got two more in there now, and there's a good apple tree there. That's my thorn tree, my sloe tree, which I've just made sloe gin from, and there's more orchard and apple here. This is all full of raspberries and strawberries. This is more strawberries. This was vegetables, and this was about to be. And I was just building the polytunnel at the time, but I got some stuff already in it, which is why it's got excuse me, why it's got covering on it. And the sort of things I grow are all perennial, or nearly all perennial. I do actually grow lettuces, but lettuces will grow back, as I say down here, if you get the right lettuce and you cover them and you pick them properly. But there's a form of kale, Dorbenton kale, which grows about 1 metre high, and it's forever, it's perpetual. Sorrel is, good King Henry is, Welsh onions keep going and they produce the onions at the top. Lovage, delicious celery sort of flavoured plant, tall, bit like fennel, beautiful, but you can just keep picking it. Chicory keeps on going. Rocket and chards, they self-seed, and they'll keep going. Rhubarb, got that. Perpetual spinach, that grows. And the lettuces, as I said. And I've got all these in the various bits of the garden. In one of the meadows, I've got quite a lot of fruit trees, apples, plums, cherries, rowan, hawthorn and crabapple trees, as well as down in the veg garden, and nut trees, hazel. Haven't got sweet chestnut yet, but I've got that at the end of the lane. Walnuts, right at the back, because walnut's going to be a big tree. Currants, all 3 varieties, red, white and black. There's the Celtic colours, got to have those. And I adore berries, so the place is full of raspberries, strawberries and blackberries. Great. Oh, and these are all, of course, involved in no dig, so I'm not messing that mycorrhiza up. They're going once, and then it's just make sure they're clear enough so that they can grow and flower. And mostly that just means pulling stuff off the top, not even disturbing the earth. We need to be connected. And we need to be connected to each other and to each other's gardens as well. Here's one of the little chaps who really does need it. So, you know, arrange with your neighbour to have a hedgehog hole so that the hedgehog can go all up and down your garden. And you can make it big enough for a fox too, although foxes can go over the top. But here you see that's good and wilded, and there's lots of wood around here for insect homes as well. But we've got a seat for humans, and it's slightly shaded, and there's all this stuff which is really good, so that you haven't just got a bare board, you've got a living barrier as well. So try it with your neighbours with this kind of thing. Make holes and spaces for things to come through. And these will be good for hedgehog home. A bit more would be even better. But if you can't, or if you feel like it anyway, build a hedgehog house. This is a good one. You can get lots and lots of plans and stuff all over the web, so do have a go. And in a town, why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? No, we have it all paved and trees sticking out of concrete. Well, we have here a bit, but we haven't got this. We haven't got a pollinator walk. We haven't got a little mammal walk. And we could have. And I bet you these kids really like it. If you live in a town, you probably have a back garden, and in a street, they all run together. So if you all made holes together, and if you all agreed, get yourself together, chatting with them, that you're all going to give rewilding a go. You're going to have to demonstrate it a bit for some of them, but some of them will go. But you will all connect up. And that's a wildlife corridor going down your street. And may be able to connect with one in the next street, and then the next street, and the next street. So our towns can actually, instead of being horrible barren places with lots of things to kill creatures and insects, they can actually be part of a corridor system. How about it? Connect up. Neighbours, neighbourhoods, towns, countries. Get it all together. Start connecting. Make that connection through the power of your own heart, of how you love it so much that you're going to sell it to people just because You're going to make them feel happy just talking about it. 1/4 of English councils have plans to rewild. Does yours? Mine does, but it's not very good. But this is an idea of what could be. I mean, that's a roundabout that's worth having. It would be better if they had some connectivity here. You know, you might have some kind of a bridge going from there to there and there to there. Have to be tall enough for all those bloody lorries and all this kind of stuff. But for goodness sake, these are. And all they need is actually something to scramble on. They don't need a sort of solid suspension bridge or something, as a human would. And all these gardens could connect up to it too, you see, all these back gardens. Ask, find out, discover. That's part of being awareness too. That's part of keeping the spirit alive. And then, I love this. I just adore this. I think this is fantastic. Get badly behaved. Yes! We're all good at that, especially at the gathering. Jump up and down on the rule book. Yes, definitely. And why? Do you remember Todd Morton? Do you remember Incredible Edible? All the spare spaces, all the sort of horribly mowed to within an inch of its life bits of grass running down the edge of the pavement. They started to turn them into vegetables and flowers, growing stuff. Vegetables and flowers are brilliant for all the pollinating insects. They're also good for all the little animals that run underneath. And for goodness sake, surely you can share a bit of lettuce with a mouse. Try. Probably not a mouse actually, but you can. All these places can be for them. Dunstable have done it differently. They've got more pathy stuff. People tend to keep paths. These are probably not brilliant in that they may well have membrane under them, but you know, it's a great help. At least the worms go under there and work. This is Incredible Edible. If you'd put Incredible Edible into Google, you will get this. You can join in. So, I said I'd end up with 3 helpful hints. To work with Mother Nature. That's the thing. We work with her. We don't work on her. We don't force her to be. We work with. And the overall one, the one that absolutely does for everything, is ask. Everything has soul, spirit, anima. Get asking. Everything, including your car and your laptop and your phone. Honestly, they're all made from the earth. So, they will. Don't be in control. Don't be tidy. Those are the worst things for most of us, people like us, to get over. All the gardening stuff that we were given years and years ago that sort of says, oh, you've got to tidy up in the autumn, you've got to take all the weeds out of this path, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. If you've got to do something, go and sit down with a cup of tea and think about it, because you probably don't have to. What we need to do is let go of the control. Learn from Mother Nature. She's been at it for 4.5 billion years. She knows. Now take a cup of tea, sit with her and say, what should I be doing now? Be led by nature. And when you've done the asking and you're sitting there letting go of the control, listen. Now, don't interpret. It's a terrible habit. I have to start every year with the students with this, of teaching them to, or at least not teaching them, but helping them to stop interpreting what they hear. You know, so-and-so starts off with a story and you say, oh yes, I know how you feel. You don't. That's bollocks. You do not know how that person feels. You may have some similar feelings. You may have what sound like some similar experiences. But just listen to Mother Nature. Listen to the plants. Even listen to people. And don't interpret. Just hear the words they say. You'll learn so much more by doing that. It's a thing we've all been got into. We've been told we need to understand it. No, we don't. We need to hear it first. And then we need to ponder it and have a cup of tea with it. And then we might start truly understanding it. So guys, anyway, I hope that that's all sort of been useful to you and helpful. And I think this is probably recording, in which case I shall grab it and show it around. And it's a start for rewilding your heart. So have a wonderful couple of days rewilding your heart here on the online Mercian Gathering. And by the way, this, please, don't all die of green envy. This is the view from my front window. That's the Caradoc. And yeah, we had half a moon. And that was the sunset. Get that in your heart. Get your favourite place like that in your heart and ask it to show you the spirit of that place. Show me how to rewild my heart. Okay guys, I think I've worn myself out. Hopefully I haven't worn all of you out. But great. See you all. And I'm hoping to see you all or share with you all on the rest of the online gathering. So take care everybody, and I hope I didn't bore you all to tears. Bye for now.